The card slapped the green felt, a sound that seemed to echo with finality in the silver-dollar saloon. Silas Ward stared at his hand, 3 sevens, while sweat beaded on his weathered brow, dripping onto the table. Across from him, Malachi Brooks leaned back, his gold teeth glinting in the lamplight, a cold smile curling his lips. The man who owned half the territory's businesses was poised to claim what little remained of Silas's life. The saloon buzzed with its usual evening crowd, but tonight carried a heavier weight. Whispers had spread, Silas, once the wealthiest rancher in 3 counties, was down to his last hand. 6 months ago, he'd owned thousands of acres and hundreds of cattle. Now, his pockets were empty, his ranch gone, his prized stallion sold to cover debts. All he had left were the clothes on his back and Cora, his steadfast wife, waiting at home. The other players had folded hours ago, wise enough to retreat from Malachi's relentless winning streak. Only Silas remained, locked in a battle that had stretched into the small hours. His hands trembled as he glanced at his cards again. 3 sevens. It should be enough. It has to be. The crowd's murmurs pressed against him, recounting his fall from grace. Once, he'd been the man others begged for loans. Now, he couldn't afford a decent meal. Malachi's fingers drummed the table. Well, Ward, you called me. Show your hand or fold like the broken man everyone says you are. The words cut deep, their truth undeniable. Silas was broken, cornered, desperate, with nowhere left to run. He looked at the pile of money in the table's center, enough to reclaim a fragment of his old life, to start over, to prove he wasn't finished. But he had nothing left to bet. Nothing except the one thing no man should ever wager. I bet my wife, Silas said, his voice barely audible. The saloon fell silent. The piano player's hands froze. Men who'd witnessed gunfights and hangings stared in disbelief. Malachi's eyebrows lifted, but his smile didn't waver. Your wife, Ward. You're betting a human being. Silas's jaw tightened. One hand, winner takes all. If I win, I get everything on this table, and we're square. If you win, he couldn't finish. The crowd pressed closer. Someone muttered about fetching the sheriff, but another voice noted no law had been broken, yet. Malachi studied him with calculating eyes. And what would I be winning? A woman who'd curse you the moment she learned what you'd done. Cora's a good woman, Silas whispered. She'd honor my agreement. Would she? Malachi's smile widened. You're so sure you'd gamble her future on 3 cards? The bartender's hands shook as he wiped glasses. Old-timers shifted uneasily. This wasn't about money anymore, it was about a man's soul laid bare. One condition, Malachi said. If I win, she works here tomorrow night, serving drinks, entertaining customers, but treated with respect. No man touches her without permission. Silas's stomach churned at the thought of Cora in this den of drunk cowboys and leering merchants. But the money on the table was hope, a chance to rebuild. And if she refuses, he asked. Then you work off the debt, Malachi replied. 5 years, no pay, until we're even. 5 years. Silas would be an old man, if he survived. He thought of Cora at home, mending by candlelight, trusting him. Deal, he whispered. Malachi nodded and laid his cards face down. Show me, Ward. Silas's hands shook as he revealed his hand, 7 of hearts, 7 of clubs, 7 of spades. The crowd gasped. 3 of a kind was strong, a hand that won most pots. Hope flickered in Silas's chest. Maybe his luck had turned. Maybe Cora would never know the choice he'd nearly made. Malachi studied the 7s with faint respect. A fine hand, Ward. One most men would be proud of. The word most sliced through Silas. Malachi turned his cards over slowly. King of hearts, king of diamonds, king of clubs, then, with a glance at Silas, the king of spades. 4 kings. The saloon erupted in murmurs and curses. A chair toppled. A glass shattered. Silas stared, his 3 sevens now pitiful against Malachi's hand. "No," he whispered. "This can't be." Malachi collected the money methodically. "A bet's a bet, Ward. Bring her tomorrow by 8. Silas pleaded, "Another chance. Double or nothing." "With what?" Malachi's voice was ice. "You've got nothing left." The weight of his actions crushed Silas. He'd bet Cora, his loyal, uncomplaining partner, like property. And he'd lost. "She'll never forgive me," he muttered. "Maybe she shouldn't," a gruff voice said from the crowd. Malachi stood, straightening his vest. "Tomorrow, 8 o'clock. If she doesn't show, you start working." As Malachi walked to the bar, no one noticed the small figure at the window. Cora Lane slipped into the night, her mind racing with plans that would stun every man in that saloon. Silas stumbled home, each step heavier than the last. Their rented cabin glowed with warm light. Cora always waited up, coffee ready, listening to his excuses. Tonight, there'd be none. He pushed open the door, expecting her by the fireplace. Instead, she stood at the kitchen table, fully dressed despite the hour. "You're awake," he said, his voice hollow. "I couldn't sleep," she replied, her back to him. Her posture was tense, unfamiliar. "Cora, I need to tell you something terrible." She turned, her eyes not gentle but hard, prepared. "You lost more than money tonight." Silas's knees buckled. "How did you?" "The saloon has thin walls, Silas. I move quietly when I need to." She'd heard everything. "Cora, I'm sorry. I thought 3 sevens would win." "You thought you could gamble my life," she said, turning to the window. "You thought luck would save you." Silas tried to speak, but she continued. "In all our years, have I ever left anything to luck?" She retrieved a leather satchel and set it on the table, revealing stacks of bills and papers. "Where did this come from?" he whispered. "Remember the cattle sale last spring?" she asked. "You said you got a fair price." "You lied. You got 3 times that." "I saw the receipt." Silas's shame deepened. He'd skimmed money, gambled it away. "This money," Cora said, "came from washing clothes, mending, selling eggs from chickens you thought died. I kept them at Mrs. Patterson's." Each word was a blow. While he'd lost their future, she'd rebuilt it. "You've been planning this," he said. "I've been preparing for when your gambling cost us everything. I never imagined you'd bet me." She faced him. "Tomorrow, I'll go to the saloon, not as Malachi's property, but with my own plan." The next evening, the saloon thrummed with anticipation. Word of Silas's bet had spread, drawing cowboys, merchants, even respectable women watching from across the street. Malachi, in his finest suit, polished glasses behind the bar. At 8, Cora entered, her simple dress and neat bun radiating dignity. The room fell silent. "Mr. Brooks," she said, "you're expecting me." Malachi nodded. "I wasn't sure you'd come." "A debt is a debt," she replied, placing a folded paper on the bar. "Read this." Malachi's confidence faded as he read, "A deed to the saloon's property, never legally his." Cora explained, "Jackson Turner never owned this land. I bought it at auction last month. You've been operating on my property." The crowd murmured. Malachi's face paled. "This can't be legal." "It is," Cora said, producing more documents. "The assessor's confirmation and notice of your void lease." Malachi's anger flared. "What do you want? Money?" "No," Cora said, addressing the room. "My husband bet me as if I were property. But I'm not." That bet was invalid. She revealed her satchel, containing $800. "This covers Silas's debts, plus interest." But I'm not offering it as payment. I propose a new game. One hand of poker. If you win, you get this money and a cheap lease. If I lose, Silas's debts are forgiven, and you have 30 days to relocate. Malachi couldn't refuse without losing face. One hand. 5-card draw. Cora sat at the table where Silas had lost. Malachi dealt, his 3 aces bolstered by a 4th. Cora took 2 cards, her face unreadable. They bet everything. Malachi revealed his 4 aces, smirking. The crowd groaned. Cora met his eyes. Straight flush. 5 through 9 of hearts. The saloon exploded. Malachi stared, defeated. The property's yours, he grated. It's over, Cora said, collecting her winnings. This saloon reopens in 2 weeks under new management. Honest games, fair treatment. The crowd cheered. Silas, in the back, wept. Cora faced him. You don't deserve forgiveness, but marriage is about what we build together. This money is your chance to start over. Bet our future again, and I won't save you. 3 months later, Cora's saloon thrived, and Silas worked their new farm, never touching cards again. Malachi left for California, his reputation ruined. The town told Cora's story, a woman who turned a shameful bet into a triumph of wit and will.